Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to the video classes for Tacoma School of the Arts. Kareem Kandi here, and I'm continuing on with last week we talked a little bit about some basic keyboard skills, and I want to continue on with that for today. So we left off with, we talked about playing melodies in the right hand, simple melodies in the right hand, and then single notes in the bass. So I wanted to just kind of work through a tune a little bit and kind of show you how this works. So I'm going to work on tune here. This is a tune by Duke Ellington called C Jam Blues. It's very, very simple two-note melody. The melody in the right hand, if you were to read it, looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's basically that phrase 3 times. It's a 12-bar blues, 3 4-bar phrases, and the chord progression is 4 bars of C7, 2 bars of F7, 2 bars of C7, then a measure of G7, a measure of F7, and then 2 measures of C7. There are other variations that you can play, but that's what I'm going to use today for this demonstration here. So like we talked about, just some basic keyboard skills is playing the melody in the right hand and just a single note in the bass in the left hand. And because right now I'm just using 1 chord per measure, I'm just going to do 1 whole note in my left hand. So my bass line would be this here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now F. 2, 3, 4, 1, back to C7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, now to G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do now, and I said earlier bass line, not much of a bass line. I'm just playing a single note, the root of the chord, the first note of each chord in the bass, and holding it for a whole note. So now I'm going to do that and play my melody at the same time. So now I've got the bottom part, I've got the root of my chord, and the melody, which also helps fill into your ear the sound of the chords here. So here's what this sounds like, and I'll do it nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So that's a very simple way to start learning how to play tunes, by playing the bottom, the root in the left hand, and the melody in the right hand. It's an easy way to start playing through tunes and to be able to hear your way through songs and song forms. You could also do half notes. Now instead of just doing whole notes here, I'll do half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could also do quarter notes too, and this is getting more into like walking bass lines. I don't spend a lot of time doing this, but just for the sake of the example. So here's quarter notes now on my left hand and the melody in the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gives you an idea. That's just some basic things that you can do just with playing the roots of the chords, the first note of each chord in the left hand, and then the melody in the right hand. So at our last video that we talked about piano skills, we also got into 2-note chords, which are thirds. We talked about 2 types of thirds here. So if I start on C, remember that being 0, counting up 4 half steps gives us a major third. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be a C major third. And I could do the same thing starting on C with 0 and counting up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. That gives me a minor third. So major third, minor third. So now if I play that same song that we just did using 2-note chords for harmony, I can get my melody in there and I'll play the tune this way. So now I'm just going to do, remember it's 4 bars of C7, so C major thirds here. 2 bars of F7, so 2 F major thirds. Then 2 bars of C7. and then a bar of G7, a bar of F7, and then 2 bars of C7. And again, when it's a dominant 7 chord, I mean, clearly we're not going to be able to get the full sound of the chord here, but we get a decent picture of it with just those 2 notes. So here's my 2-note chords here and the melody. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we have the basic 2-note chords, and at the last video, like I said, we talked about major and minor. In this particular example, there's not any minor chords that I'm putting in yet, so just all major chords here. So remember, the root is 0, and you count up 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be careful if you're doing some other types of chords. A lot of times people will screw up the counting and they'll get some sort of weird thing, but as long as you're careful in counting just up in half steps, you'll be fine. We also got into triads a little bit last video. That is triads. Tri meaning 3 is a 3-note chord. There are 4 types of triads here. So the first one we're going to talk about, and I think we discussed this last video, is a major triad. So a major triad is 2 stacked thirds, one on top of the other. So I start with C, and it's a major third. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then above that, we have a minor third. 1, 2, 3. So if I put those together, that gives me a major triad. So again, we start on the root, C here. I'm going to build a C major triad. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This gets me to E, and then this is now 0, 1, 2, 3. So major third, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then minor third, 1, 2, 3. And that gives us a C major triad. Another type of triad that we have is minor, and that is 3 plus 4, or a minor third plus a major third. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and then above that a major third. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that pattern gives me a minor triad. Okay, there are 2 more triads. We have augmented. Augmented is major third plus major third, or 4 plus 4. So here is C. C augmented, so we count here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gives us augmented, and then the other one we have is diminished, and that is, we have C, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, and then again 1, 2, 3. 2 stacked minor thirds, so 3 plus 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 0, 1, 2, 3. So the 4 types of triads, we've got major triads, 4 plus 3. We have minor triads, 3 plus 4, augmented, 4 plus 4, and then diminished, 3 plus 3. There is also, you can also do suspended triads. So basically there's two types of suspended triads here. Basically, when we have a suspended triad, what you're doing is you have another note that's taking place of the third. So in a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my third right here. So a suspended chord, you can have the 4th note taking the place of the 3rd. You can also have the 2nd note taking the place of the 3rd. So if I have this type of sus chord, this is a sus chord where the 4th is taking the place of the 3rd. And sometimes it will resolve back down. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it might just sit on that sound. The other type of sus chord we have is called a sus 2. So this is my 1, this is 2. So the 2 takes the place of my 3rd here. So that's a sus 2 chord. So sus 4, sus 2, and then regular triad. So in review, the triads we have major, minor, augmented, diminished, sus 4, sus 2. That covers a lot of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to C jam blues here and play through those chords and use, again, these are all majors at this point here. So we've got C7, so C major triad, F7, F major triad, G7, G major triad. So it's 4 bars of C, 2 bars of F, 2 bars of C, 1 bar of G, 1 bar of F, 1 bar of C. And we're just using triads here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, what I want to talk about now is inversions. As you can see, I mean, this works pretty well, and I can play through a lot of tunes, different types of songs, just using this formula, and it's fine. The issue that you'll find after doing this is the left hand is jumping a lot, and that's okay. I mean, that's one way to play, but there's also a technique that we use on the piano called inversions. What inversions mean is that we're just shifting around the notes of the chord so that we don't have to jump so much. So for example, a quick little demonstration here. If I have a C major chord, we call this root position because C is on the bottom. If I'm playing a C chord, C is our root, so that means the root is on the bottom. C, E, G. It's a C major triad in root position. If I move the C up to the top here, and I have E on the bottom, we call that first inversion. And then if I move the E now up to the top, we call that second inversion. So we have root position, first inversion where the third is on the bottom, and then second inversion where the fifth is on the bottom. And if I move up again, I'm back to C where I started. Okay, so when we get into chords with more notes, and there are different types of inversions, but for triads, those are the ones. We have root position, first inversion, and second inversion. Why is this important? Why do we even care? Because we can move from chord to chord more easily without having to jump in the left hand. So for example, let's say I'm going from a C chord. Now watch this. I go to an F chord. I have to pick up my whole hand and move it. All right, going back to C. Now, if I used an inversion for my F chord, the notes I have in the F chord are F, A, and C. Well, if I'm on a C chord here, I already have C in my chord down here. So all I need now is F and A. So if I just move to these two notes, I still have all the notes that I need for my F chord. There's F, there's A, and there's C. So now I don't have to pick up my hand. If you'll notice, here's the original one, F root position, C root position to F root position. So now here's C root position to an F inversion. And now my hand can stay in place. It doesn't have to really move. So it makes it a lot nicer if you're playing a lot of involved stuff. You don't have to work as hard with your left hand. So if I go through this tune now using inversions, I've got my C chord for 4 bars, F chord for 2 bars, then C chord. Now I need to go to a G chord. So I need for G, I need G, B, D. All right, and if I'm here, I've got C, E, G. Well, I've got G already. I just need B and D. So there's my G chord. Now I need to go back to F. The closest F inversion is where it was before. And then C. So this makes it a little bit easier to play. If I play through that same tune now, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you watch the left hand, I'm barely moving at all. I mean, I'm obviously moving some notes to switch from chord to chord, but I'm not doing the jumping that I was before. Jumping is not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a different sound, but this makes it easier to move from one thing to the next. And when you're trying to figure out inversions, there's always going to be one inversion that's above and one inversion that's below. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I look at my C chord, again, if I go from C to F, well, my F chord is right there. I got C, E, G going to C, F, A. There's all the notes in the F chord. So that's the one that would be above. If I go to the one below, I'm keeping that C. I still have to pick up the hand, and I've got A, C, F. So here's C to the F below. Here's C to the F above. So that's what I mean when I say that there's always an inversion above and below. It just depends on the one that you want to use. So yeah, so that's it. I mean, that's the helpful thing about this. Again, we can use a single note chord in the melody, and that works fine. You can do 2 note, thirds, and then you can do triads, 3 note chords. And all of those work fine. When you get into the triads, the inversions, I mean, you can still kind of do the inversions with 2 note chords as well, but you're not getting all of the information. You're not getting the root, and you're not getting the third in there. And those ones are kind of important. Later on, we'll talk about the sevenths as well, and how those are help with voice leading, and we'll get into all that stuff too. But hopefully this makes some sense, and you can get it and practice it. But again, in review, we've got major triads, minor triads, augmented triads, diminished triads, and then sus chords, sus4, sus2, and that's it. So again, we just talked about mostly just major today. In the next video, we'll talk about, maybe we might take the same tune and then put, minor and diminished and augmented in there too, so you can see how that works. But hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm happy to help, and happy practicing. Talk to you later.